All right, moving on to my first conversation now. The construction of Lekki Deep Seaport was officially started June 15th, 2020, and was completed October 24, 2022. And the total contract value for the project's first phase is $581 million. For expectations, let's talk now to Engineer Aramide Adeoye, SA2 Governor, Works and Infrastructure, Lagos State, joining me via Zoom on the program today. Good morning. Great to have you on the program, Engineer. So, how much of a game changer is this deep seaport right now? Because I know deep seaports are supposed to, help with cargo and decongesting our already congested ports. But how much of a game changer is this?
Okay, so the Lekki deep seaport, like all other ports, that you have around, this time around, the draft is about 16.5 meters high. So that means it can take large vessels. You can actually bring in a lot of cargo in. But beyond that cargo and the multiplier effects expected to bring, it's also for investors, the kind of revenues that we expect to get, both on the federal side and on the state side with the deep sea port. The Apapa ports, in terms of the size, in terms of the volume, has long been outstretched. And I'm hoping that with this one now that has been done and completed, we can increase the volume of cargo along that axis. But the fear for most investors will be the infrastructure around there. And like I was telling Neil Musha, the guy from Bloomberg last week, to tell him that as a government in Lagos, we are indeed very proactive. 2 years ago, just about the same time that the construction work was going to start on that deep sea port. 4 months before that, we had actualized the first phase of Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. And we decided, for the volumes of cargo that will be coming out and going outward of Lagos to areas Ekpe and other parts of the Federation, it's good that we make this road sustainable. And then we decided to not only expand that road, we also will turn the pavement into a rigid concrete one. So it's longer lasting.
Right.
That's on the first phase of it. While we already started the construction work on the second phase from Lekki Junction back towards Ibamadesoya. So it's expected that the volume because the whole idea is we will have no use if those cargo, they come out and we cannot get them out as swiftly as possible.
All right, what is the revenue generating prospect of this Lekki Deep Seaport?
Oh, high. It's estimated that in the concession period life, we would get close to about $200 billion. Close to about $200 billion. And that for us, it's a lot of revenues. The federal government also know this, and that's why also they keyed in to say this main artery into that deep sea port will be concessioned, and then that road also be widened, even though the state government has taken the bull to actually widen the main expressway. But the one leading directly to the port, because of what they see the potentials under the tax credit scheme, Mrs. Dangote, the constructor, Mrs. High Tech, is already working on that road, just to expand it into a dual carriageway with a shoulder. But like people would say, would this from a two-lane carriageway into a dual-lane carriageway and then the shoulder, will it take all of the volume of traffic that is expected? And so as a state, we are already in the process of discussing with the federal government to say, yes, in the short run, this is it, but in the long term, this is a cross-section that we think would work. And we're working cooperatively at that. We're working assiduously at that. I think we're speaking to the same thing now.
And obviously, funding this kind of project is definitely, not cheap. And also for future funding, where can we say, the funding, came from to actually make this a reality?
So that's coming, the one on the federal government side is coming under the tax credit scheme. And then as a state, the first phase that we did came under, it was a contractor finance thing, and then with the balance coming from IGR. I keep telling people infrastructure costs a lot of money. And the earlier we all know it and realize it, that the only way that you do roads, that you fund roads, is either from taxes, from tax credit schemes, from private investors, equities from other bringing inject capital, equity capital from private investors. There is no other way to build roads. But infrastructure is not cheap. And of course, we're looking outwards beyond the normal IGR revenues. As you all know, the budget size for Lagos State, particularly for Ministry of Works, hovers around 120 billion to about 140 billion, depending on what the budget size is. At best now, about 150 billion, 140, 150 billion. But most of these roads, particularly on the rigid pavements, they're in excess of 100 billion. So you cannot just do one road and then you leave the whole citizenry in a quagmire. So we need other source of budget, other source of funding.
And where do you think this funding is going to come from?
So from bonds. You recollect that about a year ago, Lagos State government, we had the first largest size bond, about 100 billion from the office DMO. That was about a year and a half ago. It was the largest bond by a state government in the whole of the federation. So we expect more bonds, a mixture of bonds, Sukuk, RTITS. That's what we expect to see. Very little mix of revenues. Like you said, this morning, you know what the budget size, what was allocated to the states. It's dwindling. The resources are dwindling. So we are not looking more into the normal IGR funding. That wouldn't carry us anywhere. The federal government has also realized that over the years, particularly in the last 4 years, the Minister for Works clearly said it when they came in 2015. The number of the debt that was owed, it was in trillions what they were owing contractors. Infrastructure, no contractor works when you are not able to fund those projects. So that was how creative that the government did to say, okay, we will go this way, explore different options. And for us as a state, we are beginning to do something under the PIIP. We call it Private Investor Partnership Program, where we'll say these are the roads that are listed for construction, and we expect investors to come in. In return on the investment, we offer different forms of sweeteners, either tax credit, concession rights, use of either on signages, so many things that we do, but we take it on a case-by-case basis. We've done that experiment. It's worked for Oniru Network of Roads Circle around Victoria Island 2 years ago. That was commissioned in rigid pavement. It's also worked presently now. Senate is doing something along Murphy-Adetoro Road. Even though they had done some construction and years back, but they've come again to say, we want to partner with Lagos State government and we want to take Omoba Murphy-Adetoro Road in Metiosa. I've also had Messrs. Access Bank come up to say they want to do Mayegun. Mayegun is another new construction that is coming. So the banks are coming up. Of late, they're coming up to say, we want to do this. Ditto also data centers, access to data centers around Lagos. And then investors around that kind of industry are coming up to say, we can take this up with the state government and let us fund it. So we're beginning to see all of those manifest.
Okay, well, globally, I know the Chinese, they have a lot of interest when it comes to, building ports in different countries. Did the Chinese play any role in the construction of this Lekki deep sea port, and are they playing any roles going forward?
Oh, absolutely. So the deep sea port, it's a partnership, it's a private sector participation. The proponents, Mrs. Tolaram and the Chinese, actually, they injected some fund equity. The state government put their own equity down. The proponents also put theirs down, and then the Chinese check through the EPC contractor, Mrs. Check, also contributed into it. And so that's reflected also in the sharing formula for the revenues. And then, as you are aware, the Port Mainland Bridge, because I tell people the real game changer to all of this is the Port Mainland Bridge. Last November 1st, just about a week ago, we opened the final bids from the three likely contractors on the Port Mainland Bridge. We are in the process of technical evaluation and the financial evaluation as I speak. And before the end of the month, we'll be able to announce who the preferred bidder is and the reserve bidder on the Port Mainland Bridge. That is coming, a lot of funding coming from the Chinese. So it's a PPP thing, and then with most of revenues coming and guaranteed by the Chinese Exim Bank. Okay,
well, I know that running a deep sea port, requires, a lot of things, especially, constant power, electricity. And obviously we know where we are in Nigeria now when it comes to power supply. What are the plans to make sure there is constant supply of electricity, to make sure that we actually get the gains from this Lekki deep sea port?
Thank you, Ladi. So one of the things that we're doing, like I said, the cross-section of what the federal government wants to do now in the short term, we know it. We know what we want to build on that road in the long term. And that right of way actually takes care of all of the utilities that are coming in, including the power lines, the new distribution power lines. That's on the first row. About 4 months ago, we presented to the House of Assembly the laws regulating that will allow people coming, investors coming in the area of power, where you can ring fence. So for a particular area, you ring fence what exactly the power, if you generate power, ring fence, and then for that catchment, you can be able to distribute power. Hitherto, it was not that. It couldn't be possible. So the laws passed on to the Assembly for vetting is on, and I think that before the end of the year, the House of Assembly can actually pass that law. And once that bill is passed, it allows investors the option of coming in and how they can come in to provide the power. While also for the normal upgrade on the normal line that they're intending to build new lines, the right of way for that is also ongoing. So I think we're taking note of that in the way it's not just enough to build the port, but also the generation and the things that we're doing, the laws, what we're tweaking around the laws to enable investors coming in that sector.
And talking about laws and legal framework for the deep sea port, what are the plans for ownership, operations, safety, and security issues? Have they been clearly spelt out?
Oh, they have been. They have been from day one. Like I said, the proponents are tolerant. That's all spelled out in the agreement, in the JV agreement. It's something that we've actually looked through very well before signing, and that's why you saw it all work. It was private sector driven. It's not every time that you build a deep sea port in 2 years. All of those were done and dusted. I think we're good to go.
All right. Well,
what has always been of concern, major concern, has always been the access. But in terms of operationally running efficiently, all of those has been taken care of in the JV, in the operational agreement.
All right, let's look at jobs now. We know unemployment rate, in Nigeria about 33%, as we speak. What's the job creation potential, of this port?
So for the ports at full capacity, we expect that it will create jobs for at least close to 200,000 people. 200,000 people, the handlers, the skilled, the skilled, the unskilled. Also other businesses in terms of transport haulage system. We're beginning to get requests now in Ministry of Works, people wanting to do trailer parks, opportunities for trailer parks around the area. As I speak, the approvals, 2 or 3 approvals are under consideration for people to build trailer parks around that port area. So opportunities are coming for haulage business, for people who work in the port, cargoes, and all of the rest.
So
but in all, we expect volumes
I'm guessing there's also a value chain potential.
All to end to end, over 200,000 persons be employed, increase in employment.
All right, that sounds good. That sounds good. We do need a lot of jobs, at this time. I want to thank you so much, Engineer Ramide Adeoye, SA to Governor, Works and Infrastructure, Lagos State. It was great having you on the program.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you.